there seems to be a sentiment growing where people say this is symbolic. We're paying a lot of money. We're not sure what we're getting back from it. Why don't we just become like the United States of America, where when the buck stops with one person like the president? Why do we need this extra layer of governance? Do you see, this is called republicanism, and not the Republican Party, but seeking to be more of a republic, I guess you could say, rather than a constitutional monarchy. Do you feel that there's a growing sentiment in Canada? How are the tides these days?
No, I don't think there's a growing sentiment. I think the thing a lot of monarchists, I think, are most concerned about is apathy, and the fact that people don't really care, or they don't choose to try to understand exactly how it works. There is no second layer of governance. It's all one layer, of course. The prime minister, the premiers are simply advisors to that. They're the chief minister. And I know that that's a subtle sort of nuance, but I don't know that very many Republicans are advocating for an American system anyway, but rather by some sort of system by which a Canadian, someone who holds Canadian citizenship, can aspire to be elected or appointed as the head of state, rather than sharing the head of state with another nation. I don't worry a whole lot about a rise of a Republican movement. But again, one of the principal goals of the League is to better educate Canadians about what this role is and about what these benefits are. And I think we do spend a lot of time spinning our wheels as Canadians, talking about doing away with it, and or cutting the ties, which is kind of an awkward term anyway. But doing away with it, instead of focusing, well, how can we make this thing work better for us? I think it works incredibly well. It could always be more efficient. It could always be more visible. It could always do more while maintaining this distance from politics. But I think we're really doing ourselves a disservice by thinking, oh well, we just cut our ties with this institution that has been with us for as long as there have been settlers. To say nothing, of course, of hereditary chiefs and so on within many indigenous civilizations long before the first settlers arrived. So I think it is problematic to think that by throwing this out, we're somehow more mature or more this or more that, instead of focusing on, well, how can we make this institution work better for us? It's not a static thing. It continues to evolve all the time. So there's no reason we can't help that evolution along in its own way to help serve us better as part of this international community.
So what things could be made better? What things could be better to make this work better for us, to use that term 3 times?
No. Well, I think visibility is a bit of an issue. And I think certainly in some provinces, here in Nova Scotia, the Office of the Lieutenant Governor is very keen to make sure that people are aware of how busy his honor and her honor are, and the sort of engagements they undertake, the work that they're doing, both in a constitutional sense, but also as sort of head of Nova Scotia society. In other provinces, you don't hear nearly as much. It doesn't mean the Lieutenant Governor is necessarily less busy, but you don't hear as much about it. I think visibility is a really significant thing for people to understand how it's working. We have to be more visible. And the Prime Minister, I don't think the current Prime Minister has done a very good job at highlighting. Now, Mr. Harper was very keen on sort of playing up the institution as the sort of apex of the Canadian system. The Trudeau government has downplayed that quite a bit. I mean, we're just barely hearing in the last few weeks sort of what Canada is going to be doing in an official capacity to mark the coronation. So I think visibility is a long way towards it. And then when people understand what it's doing and what can be done, then I think we can continue to leverage that, particularly with an eye towards reconciliation. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think the King is keen to realize that, as is, of course, his representative, Mary Simon, our first Indigenous Governor General. I think there's a lot of potential there. And I hope that we're able to harness that in the next number of years, because I think the King is very keen to help that along.
Okay. And let's change gears here for a second. We only have about 45 seconds left. Tell us about some of the festivities, locally, like in different provinces and territories, and nationally. What are people doing to mark this special day?
It seems to be very, up to the individual place, the individual family, community, and so on. We're seeing picnics, we're seeing teas, we're seeing religious services, public festivals, all sorts of different things. In addition, of course, to the folks that are just gathering with friends and family, getting up really early. For the folks on the West Coast, it'll be very, very early on Saturday morning to check all of this out. So I think we're seeing a great variety of events happening. Looking forward to seeing how things develop in Ottawa and Parliament Hill as well, and look forward to drawing the attention to this most significant day, which I think all monarchists and non-monarchists can agree is a pretty historic occasion.
Barry, thank you so much for your time.
That's a pleasure.